275 hours later, and I am finally done with Monster Hunter Rise, and let me tell you, it was not worth it. Well, kind of. You see, my relationship with Rise is a bit complicated. I'm just gonna rip the band aid off right away at the beginning here. I think that Rise had a lot of potential, but unfortunately, it just failed to live up to it in pretty much every aspect. So, this review is gonna be pretty negative, and if you disagree with my opinion or anything I have to say here, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Just know you're wrong. Jokes aside, though, I can't dictate how you enjoy something. If you like Rise for what it is, more power to you, right? But I'm just gonna go through why it didn't really work for me personally. Now, I'm not gonna pretend to be some Monster Hunter expert. I'm about as fresh meat can get. I am like raw on the market here. Like many others, my introduction to the series was through World. And I fucking love that game. I adored Monster Hunter World. And I thought I could find some of that magic here in Rise, but this game, it took everything that Monster Hunter World was and made it its mission to throw it out the window, throw it into the gutter, because none of those aspects that I really, really loved in World made its way into Rise. Now, it has been a while since I last dipped my toes into World, so some of the finer details might be lost on me here, but one of the main reasons why I really loved that game was just how well it immersed me into its world. With the opening cutscene, you're banded together, you're thrown into this guild of other heroes, other slayers that are with you, or hunters, I should say, and it really did feel like you were part of something bigger. And the whole hub area where you're going around, it just felt a lot more cohesive. And then when you get into the actual hunts themselves, it actually felt like you were hunting. And it felt like you were tracking the monster. I mean, you were literally doing that, so it didn't feel like it. You literally were tracking down these monsters, and even in the fights, using the environment to your advantage. However, most of that is gone in Rise. It's quite obvious that both games had vastly different priorities, where Monster Hunter World really wanted to focus on, well, the world. It wanted to immerse you, and that's really reflective through both the narrative and the gameplay. And on the opposite side of the coin, Rise really wanted to hone in on the gameplay aspect. So a lot of that immersion through fighting monsters and getting connected with the characters, lore, and everything, that's all lost. And personally, for me, as someone new to the Monster Hunter franchise, that's something that I really, really valued. I want to feel like this world is alive. I want to feel like I'm actually tracking down ancient beasts. I want to actually feel like I'm a monster hunter. And that's something that's really lacking in this game. It doesn't feel like Monster Hunter. Instead, it feels more like Monster Slayer, if that makes any sense. You're not spending any time knowing the monsters, you're not spending any time tracking them down. You're just going from one monster to the other, killing them, moving on, grabbing their materials and whatever. It has a standard gameplay loop, but it's missing a lot of that magic. So just to better exemplify what I'm talking about, and I think this is actually the perfect example, you have the final two elder dragons of the main story, Ibushi and Narwa, which are these gigantuan elder dragons that carry the elemental powers of wind and lightning. And in their moveset, which kind of makes no sense, they summon these rock pillars, okay? Rock pillars, whatever, they're elemental dragons, that's not surprising, okay? The part that makes no fucking sense is they summon platforms for no reason, by the way. They summon these platforms that expose our weak areas. They summon these platforms that carry working artillery on them. What? Excuse me? What are we doing here? Sure, from a gameplay standpoint, it might feel fun, but this is so immersion breaking. I was just I didn't know what to think. Like, how does this make any sense? How is this thoughtful design? I don't know what they were cooking. The kitchen was closed during this time. The stove was off, okay? And all that is just from a gameplay perspective. If you look at everything surrounding the narrative, you're not part of this family anymore, this guild of hunters. Instead, you are quite literally the main character of this story. Everything revolves around you, everything centers around you, every moving piece is made with you in mind. And don't get me wrong, that has its own merits, but I'd much rather have a game where it doesn't feel like you are solely the focus of everything. You literally feel like a shonen main character here, and that's even reflected in the gameplay because you have a fuck ton of plot armor. Everything in this game feels like a joke. And if you take a look at my gameplay here, you can automatically tell that it's pretty shitty. And that's because I kind of had my brain off. I'm not trying to make excuses here saying like what a bad player I am. I actually was like watching House at the same time that I was fighting this monster because, well, first of all, it's not my first time fighting it. And second of all, it's just so fucking boring to fight, man. Everything in this game is super fucking easy. And I know, like, not everything needs to be hard to be fun. Like, hell, one of my favorite games that's near and dear to my heart is Genshin Impact. And if you play that game, you know that it's like baby mode when it comes to difficulty. You do not need to turn on your brain to really clear that game, but I still love it anyway because there are just so many different aspects and things to enjoy: the music, the environments, the world building, the lore. But for Monster Hunter, the only thing I really care about is hunting the monsters. You know, there's not much else to these games. I would say story, but even world that was kind of dog shit. So I'm not playing Monster Hunter for the story or really anything else. It's for the experience of fighting the monsters, and I just don't get that same enjoyment out of Rise. And that's largely because there's no challenge at all. It doesn't feel like I'm fighting this hulking wall, this obstacle that I really need stress to overcome, like Anjanath or Nergigante or I forgot the dog, Blood Dog, you know, the one I'm talking about. I never had a moment like that where I had to sit back and say, hold the fuck up, what am I fighting right now? I need to lock the fuck in. I never had that moment in Rise. At least not in the base game. I will talk about Sunbreak because that was a major step up. And before some of you Discord mods get your nipples twisted saying, well, you actually found the game to be easy because you're a filthy longsword user. And you know what I have to say about that? You know what? Just give me a second. Fuck yeah, I'm a filthy longsword user. I'm a filthy longsword user in real life, bitch. Yeah. And, you know, oh, fuck. But let me tell you, no, it doesn't end there. Nope, no, come here. Come closer. Yep. You are playing a Monster Hunter game right now that's set in some version of Edo period Japan, right? The Weebia setting you could choose. And the narrative itself revolves around you as a shonen protagonist, essentially. So answer me this question. Why aren't you playing the longsword? This right here, this is the canon weapon of the game. So, checkmate. No, but seriously, I think we can all agree that the longsword isn't the issue here, okay? It may or may not make things more easy compared to the other weapons. I don't know, I haven't tried all of them. But there are just bigger underlying issues that make Rise a joke. So, for example, or I should say the biggest reason why that is because of the introduction of the wirebug mechanics, the main thing that sets Rise apart from the other games. So in World, for example, you have the Clutch Claw, which is the main thing that you use, and even though that is overpowered, I'm not saying it's not, the wire bugs are just a different type of overpowered. Well, what are they? Well, simply put, they are very versatile ability slots. So you have two of them on default, and you can use them in a variety of ways. When you're down, you can get right back up. You can swing around with them like you're Spider-Man, except kind of disabled. You can use different abilities with the longsword. I don't know about the other weapons, but you have two different, or depending on which skill you use, you have a lot of available abilities that you can use to damage the monster. You can even use counters. There's a lot you can do with the wirebugs. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I actually had a lot of fun with the wirebugs. Maneuvering around was really fun. It made the pacing of the fights much faster, more snappier, and I really did like that, even though I still preferred how it was in World, the more grounded feel in that. The problem with the wirebugs is that the monsters weren't really balanced around them. So essentially, you give the hunter all these abilities, and they get twice as fast, twice as more potent, twice as powerful, while the monsters stay stuck in the fucking trenches. The level of maneuverability that you get as a hunter just far outclasses anything the monsters are able to do. They're not fast enough, they don't have as wide reaching attacks. It's just really easy, and that's the main thing that makes Monster Hunter Rise a joke. It doesn't feel like there is any tension in the fights, any stakes, because you know that I can just ride my dog to sharpen my weapon. I can just use the wire bug to get out of the way of an attack. I don't need to time anything. I'm safe. And that is where the underlying issue is. Now, even though that in of itself is a really big issue for me, it's not a complete deal breaker, okay? I could find other aspects of the game to enjoy. Is what I would say if there were other aspects of the game to enjoy. My problems with the game do not end there, no siree. You thought not balancing around the main mechanics of the game was bad? A really shitty decision, stinky, okay? Boo! No, no. It gets worse. Okay, it gets far, far worse. So let's start with the monster roster, because this is a Monster Hunter game, right? You surely you have a good lineup of a slew of monsters that are super sick and interesting, right? You don't. You don't have any of that. I'm not exaggerating when I say finding a standout in this lineup is like trying to find a virgin at a Charlie Sheen party. It's barren. There is nothing. We got like Gross Herog, maybe that's the best one. Okay, cool. He makes ice swords from his hands, slams the ground. Okay, decent monster. And then you have Magna Dildo, the flagship monster that's on the fucking screen of the package that you're buying Monster Hunter for. He was also a cool fight. I wouldn't say really spectacular, but that's it. That's the whole highlight reel. I just showed you everything. It honestly is super pathetic, especially considering how in this same game you have the Khezu. The fucking Khezu. What, like, what even is that? How do I even begin to explain to someone what the fuck this thing is? Like, who looked at a floppy, pale, screeching dick noodle and went, yes, yes, this is the type of content we need. This is what people are craving for. Fighting this thing isn't even a hunt. It feels more like an auditory assault. Because I swear to God, this fucking piece of shit screeches at least like 10 times per hunt. You can't even do anything. It's more of a test of patience than it is of skill, honestly. I was so mad by the end of every hunt. I just wanted to get this shit over with. Not only that, not only the screeches on its own are bad enough because you can't fucking do anything, but you get hit twice by this piece of shit and you're paralyzed. Bro, just talking about this is making me angry. I'm just gonna stop, okay? Khezu exists in this game, okay? Automatically down 3 points. And this isn't just a Khezu problem. I feel like a lot of the monsters within Rise's catalog have a lot of design oversights. So for example, you have the Almudron, which I showed a clip of earlier. Its body is just way too big and slim. It takes up like 90% of the screen, making it hard to navigate through and just hit where I want to hit and when. Which is why the variant that they made in Sunbreak it's just so much better. They condensed it down, they made it small, and they made its moveset more interesting and not this much shit which you have to like climb out of. Like it's way more lame. And then you have Basarios, a dragon with rocks on its back. Yeah, that sounds about as lame as it sounds. And I'm using the term dragon very loosey-goosey here, because this thing is closer related to my left nut than it is a dragon. It is so lame. Probably the most unfun fight, aside from maybe the Khezu, across both games for me, and any game for that matter. I just had such an excruciating time with this thing, because it's just so fucking boring. Not only can you not hit it half the fucking time because it's just layered in its rocks, so you have to actually wait around until it warms up so you can engage in any meaningful combat. All the other times, it's just moving so fucking slowly that it's not even a threat. It doesn't just mesh at all with the wire bug mechanics. It makes no sense why this monster or dragon, actually it's more accurate to call it a wyvern, but it just doesn't mesh at all with the gameplay of this game. Like my grandpa shuffling to the bathroom at 3 a.m. after drinking too much prune juice looks like Sonic the Hedgehog compared to this thing. It's just so annoying, and that's a trend you'll see going forward with most of the monsters in this game. They're just really annoying to fight. Now there is one monster here that I neglected to mention, and that's Balstrax. I think Balstrax is such a cool and awesome fight. One of the best fights throughout both Monster Hunter games. I loved everything about it. How it flies throughout the sky and goes down like a fucking Radon meteor. How it just, when it transitions from place to place, it just zooms across the map. It's a fucking space dragon that shoots lasers out of its wings, okay? Sick ass fight. The reason I'm not including it with the lineup of other monsters is because I didn't even know it existed in the base game until I was like halfway through Sunbreak. So I'm guessing you have to grind the fuck out of the base game to get your hunter rank up to be able to fight that. which is really unfortunate because by that point, I think most people would have quit already. But yeah, just wanted to put it out there. Valstrax, awesome fight. To keep the positivity train going a little further, though, before it inevitably crashes, I think it's important to give kudos where it's due, and I think they did a great job with switch skills. Yeah, it's basically exactly what it sounds like. You can switch out your skills for new ones, so your gameplay inside the hunts will actually be different from most people. Now, there aren't that many customizable options yet, so you'll probably run into people with the same moveset, but it's much less than before. There isn't just one move set where everybody has across the whole board. I think customization is great. It changes up your gameplay, keeps things fresh, and you can experiment with different types of move sets that fit your needs better. And in Sunbreak, this is developed further by you being able to switch freely in between two vastly different skills during the hunt, which was amazing. Now, the one in Sunbreak that they introduced for the longsword was kind of overpowered. You can basically hold down the sheath button, and during that time, you can counter any move and you won't get hit. And if you actually release it at the same time, you do a counter attack, which does a fuck ton of damage. And if you hold it down all the way in, you basically get like an ultra great sword worthy attack. It's insane how much damage output you can do with that weapon, or with that switch skill, I should say. So the risk to ratio reward is kind of unbalanced there, but Rise is an easy game anyway, and it was just so fun to use that at that point I really didn't give a fuck. I just wanted to be done with this game. And if there was ever a challenge that I wanted to have, I just switched to the other switch skill that wasn't as good. I just wish that there were more switch skills, because right now there's only one or two options that you can choose from, at least for the longsword, and I feel like there just should be more, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. Alright, back to the negativity, my favorite. So, you think that compromising on the roster of monsters here, I did not mean that to rhyme, by the way. You think that compromising on that would mean that they would allocate their resources and their attention to other areas of the game, right? Such as the maps. The maps are great, right? The maps should be fantastic. They're absolute dog shit. Not only do most of them look super uninteresting, uninspired, and bland, there are just no maps. Keep in mind, this game is like 80 plus hours long. And how many maps are there in the game? Five. There are five maps. You're going to be doing dozens and dozens and dozens of missions and hunts, replaying on the same exact maps over and over and over again. And it's not like the maps have widely differentiating characteristics to them. Maybe you have some different fauna, or maybe you have different buffs on them. But generally speaking, all of them behave exactly the same. You can't really use the environment to your advantage like you could in World. You could to some degree, but not really anything close to that. What I do like about the map though is how you can find different things to help you for your hunt. So for example, you can find like a gust crab that will launch you up into the air. You can find different wire bugs that gives you an extra slot. Or you can find this red spirit stone moss something, I forgot the name, but it basically enhances the effects of your consumables. I think having stuff around the map that helps you during your hunt is great. The other thing you can find littered across the map are these spirit birds. So you can see them floating around in some of these clips here where you see these glowing green, yellow, red, blue, whatever fuck orbs. And you basically grab these and they augment your base stats. So one gives more health, one gives more defense, one gives more stamina. And it's fucking annoying. It's just so annoying to have to go out of your way to get these spirit birds to make your stats better. I honestly don't see a point to this. It just feels like you're wasting your time because it's actually more time efficient if you go out and get the maximum amount of damage you can because you're going to clear the monsters faster. The problem is you have to go out of your way. Like these spirit birds are not on the route to your monster most of the time. So you have to go out of your way to collect these. So it's just really unfun. I'd rather just have the base stats be the base stats and balance around that, or maybe have an item that you can use to get all your stats to max right away before the hunt begins or right as the hunt begins. Now at this point I've been throwing my shit every which way in Rise's direction, but I have yet to throw my dung pie at the new flagship mode of the series, the Rampage mode. Basically you have a slew of monsters come down, like attacking the village, and you have to defend it using artillery weapons and NPCs. It's basically like a tower defense game. Now, I don't feel the need to address how shit that game mode is because, well, the devs did it themselves. They completely removed that shit in Sunbreak. There's not a single mission, not a single battle, encounter, whatever you want to call it, for the Rampage mode in Sunbreak. So yeah, I really don't have much to say. It was shit. The devs knew it was shit, and they removed it. So, yay. But now let's talk about Sunbreak, because this is where the game actually truly shines and what I believe should have been Monster Hunter Rise to begin with. Remove everything in the base game and just make it Sunbreak. That would have been a much better experience in my opinion. In fact, I'd say the worst part of Sunbreak is that you have to play the base game, or at least a large portion of it, to be able to access its content. So what Sunbreak does is take everything in the base game, take out all the bad stuff, and improve everything that needed improving. You got better monsters, the variants are amazing, the catalog of monsters is like just spectacular. You have Espinas, Astalos, Amatsu, the Lunogaron, you have Malzeno. Such great fights, and the variants are even better with Silver and Gold Rathalos and Rathian. Amazing fights all across the board. I am super pleased with the lineup of monsters in Sunbreak. That's how it should have been. I guess the only part I wasn't a really big fan of, not the greatest enthusiast, was the beginning. I don't think the beginning had much going for it other than the crab monster, because up until the middle, you don't really get introduced to anything new. But other than that, when you hit the midway point all the way to the end, you're hit with banger after banger after banger. Even the story, which in my experience has been pretty dogshit until now, I feel like even Rise did a great job, or a better job with the story. It's still nothing to write home about, but it was marginally better, with more interesting and likable characters, plus it had Fiorain, so it automatically just wins that category. One of my favorite memories from the entire franchise actually came from the Amatsu fight. Now, unfortunately, I didn't record any clips for it, I neglected to do so, but I really wish I did, because that fight, man, what a special fight that was. It was really cinematic from the beginning towards the end. I actually felt like I was fighting Kaido from One Piece. That monster had me locked the fuck in, bro. It was so good. It was risky. It was thrilling. The clock was against the wall. I had like 5 minutes left before the time ran out and I had to withdraw from the mission. I had no lives to spare. My heals were basically down and I managed to kill it just in the nick of time. And the dopamine rush, bro, it was immaculate. That is exactly the kind of experience I've been craving for from this game, and Sunbreak really delivered on that front. With the DLC, they also reintroduced Bleed into the game, which was my favorite status effect in Monster Hunter World. I'm not sure what the common consensus is here among the Monster Hunter community, you guys might hate it, but I feel like it adds a degree of tension and stress into the hunts. You have to wait and crouch, you have to find the right opportunity to get rid of the bleed or you're in serious danger, and I just really like that. It doesn't feel as stressful or bad as it did in World. They might have nerfed it here, but I'm still glad it made its way into the DLC. But yeah, that's about it. I don't want to harp on this for too long. Sunbreak is great. I don't think it's perfect. It still suffers from a lot of the foundational issues that are present in the base game, but it does elevate and make improvements to a lot of the issues I had in the base. So yeah, at the end of the day, we have Sunbreak, which is the real Monster Hunter Rise game, and we have the base game, which is an amalgamation of disappointments. That being said, I'm giving Monster Hunter Rise, the base game, a 3.7 out of 10, and I'm giving Sunbreak a 7.3. Giving Monster Hunter Rise as a package the score of 5.5 out of 10. But yeah, that's about it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that jazz, or don't. And I'll see you all in the next one. See ya.